He came up with some astonishing stuff a few decades ago and filmed it so that others could see. Well, we're the lucky ones this week as retired Taupaki teacher Elwyn Richardson lets us in on his past school days.
I went to Arawati in the late 40s, and I went there for a number of reasons. It was a country school and it was in the farm. I had interests in malacology, and it was meant to be a place where I could give education my own particular flavour. It was a long way away. It was an isolated place, isolated sort of people. I went there really out of what the psychologists called irritability, and that is I really was somewhat concerned about a number of things in the curriculum. I was very concerned about phys ed, I was concerned about music and things that didn't work. I was very concerned about new things, art, and I also felt that language wasn't being taught properly, and I went there to do my own thing. And the children had to work out of their systems a lot of preconceived ideas of what personal creativity was. No one seemed to know what personal creativity was in those times. I started off with printmaking and writing about small things in the environment, and my intuition was it really did well for me because I made the right sort of decisions. I went to small things in the place, such as the gum trees, the leaves, the berries on the gum trees, the flower on the puhutikawa, the small crabs in the rock pool, the bird that nested every season, and the big strainer on the corner of the school. I did those sort of things, and children wrote what they saw. Before long, I'd made sufficient advances in pottery and sculpture for the department officers to say, hey, this fellow seems to me to have established something which is recognisable and different from what anybody else had ever done before. I don't think anyone had ever done pottery in a primary school in New Zealand by the time I had small wood-fired kilns. So they said, how would you like to have permission to do what you are doing? And I said, well, you know, apart from getting the sack, that wouldn't be a bad idea. So I set about getting this permission, and they brought with it lots of tangible protection for me. No inspector could throw you out on your ear. No inspector was allowed to grade you, and for a given time, they suggested a generation. In other words, take a primer group right through to Form 2 and see what happened. And I did that. And that was the beginning of the Arawati experiment. I became a confirmed believer in personal, individual creativity. And the environment was the source. Also the reflections, the thinking, the imagining, the dreaming, the hoping, the memories, all of those sort of things. From an education point of view, it was recognised for its values, the quality of the poetry, the quality of the printmaking, their drama, their thinking, their talking, their acting, even their sport. For a while, there were the golden years when there was a certain amount of creativity abounding, particularly in the field of writing, and New Zealand got a name for teachers who strived very hard with some success for the products of writing. I went back with my Helen to Auckland not too long ago, and we went about the place, and one of the areas I went to was Akateri, where a lot of my Maori pupils came from. And we came up to a gate where there was a big notice which virtually said, no entrance, anybody, and I felt very much like a Pākehā. But coming up to the gate was a rather dilapidated Jeep, and I opened the gate for the people, and as they came through the gate they stopped, and out jumped this middle-aged man, and I thought he looked familiar, and it was a person I taught many years ago at Auckland back in the early 50s. And he said, look, what we did there has coloured my life, all of it. I see the sky in a different way, which you didn't tell me, but I see it through the eyes of what we did when we were at Oroati. I see the fish in the water, I see the rocks, the sound of the water on the shingle. I see all of those sort of things in an entirely different way. Some of which perhaps you showed us, and some of which you allowed us to discover. But, he said, you have enriched my life. Oh, it's so nice to see you, Mahita. Would that my children had something of that in their school, but they don't.